But, the other thing that I would do, and you got to deal with this climate change issue. And I know that, there are some people who think climate change is a hoax. It ain't a hoax. I think the last 10 years have been the warmest on record. And we can create millions of good-paying jobs transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency, to solar, to wind, and other sustainable energies.
I think the climate change issue is very complicated. And I think, did you see the Washington Post piece that they wrote where they did this long-term view? First of all, the reality is that the Earth's temperature has never been static, right? We could both agree on that. It's always been up and down. There's been ice ages and heat waves. And then the Washington Post looked at it. What was the time period that they looked at? That essentially they found that we're in a cooling period. That the Earth over the past X amount of years, and this was like a very inconvenient discovery, but they had to report the data, and kudos to them for doing that. Scientists have captured the Earth's climate change over the last 485 million years. Here's a surprising place we stand now. So look at the far end of that graph, and you see we're in a cooling period.
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't read that article, but the scientists who are out there, I think.
I know, but there's a lot of money involved in that too, Bernie. That's part of the problem. There's a lot of money involved in this whole climate change emergency issue, and there's a lot of control, and that's a big part of this problem. Not only that, if we're just talking about primarily carbon and carbon footprint, what are we going to do about China? Because China is like, what percentage of
they are the major polluter right now in terms of carbon. We're number two. We used to be one. They are number one right now.
I think they have an enormous percent of the global. I think
they're number one. I don't know what the percentage.
It's
Look,
very high.
It's not an American issue. It is a global issue. And all I can tell you is that we are, in my view, going to see more extreme weather disturbances in the coming years than we have ever. And we're seeing them right now.
Right, but scientists don't agree. Well, this is where it gets confusing. Because scientists that are in agreement, there's all these entanglements. Whenever someone's discussing something, whether it's economics or whether it's health issues or pharmaceutical drugs, there's financial entanglements. I think we both agree with that, right?
Yep.
And I think this is part of the issue with this whole climate change emergency as well, because it's not just that we could all agree pollution is a major factor. It's a huge issue in the world today. We could all agree with that, right? I think one of the things that we have to recognize is that whenever there's an issue that everyone can agree on, you're going to have a bunch of people that capitalize on that issue, and they look to gain more money. They have financial issues that they push forward in order to capitalize on this issue, but then also power and control. These things like they're trying to institute in the UK where they have these 15-minute cities, this concept where you're not allowed to travel. They'll be able to look at your carbon footprint. See, that's the problem. The problem is giving people that are in power, these people that we've all discussed that have so much money and so much control over our societies, multinational corporations, giving them more control over citizens. And this is a vehicle for that. And this is what's dangerous about this whole climate change emergency, because it allows these fucking creeps that have been controlling people and controlling what you do and what you say and how you spend your money with people that are already living check to check, and you put additional constraints on them and you make them even more scared. And then you put additional measures where you can look at their carbon footprint, you can look at the amount they travel, put a carbon tax on these people, let's figure out how to extract more money from them. That's what bothers me about this climate change emergency. Not that we can all agree pollution is a terrible thing. Everyone should agree to that. The beautiful earth that sustains us and all life on this planet is being poisoned as we speak. We're killing all the fish in the ocean and sucking them out in giant numbers. 94% of all the big fish that are in the ocean are gone over the last, whatever it is.
When you go to war against nature, you lose.
Yeah, because you're a part of nature.
Loses. Exactly
but
right.
We're worshiping the almighty dollar above the mother.
You asked me when I ran for president, one of the interests, it's something else to run for president because you get around, you meet all kinds of people and you learn all kinds of things. And one of the things that I did, we went to we met with a lot of Native Americans. And one of the reasons is, their tradition was going from way back, respect for nature. That they understood way back when, that you kill off all of the buffalo, you ain't going to have nothing to eat, right?
Right.
They understood that. And
Sure.
you understand that you live in harmony with nature,
Yes.
which is, I think, what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And if you lose that harmony, I worry about the future of humanity in general.
Which is the problem with financial competitiveness. When you put that almighty dollar
You got
above
it.
all else,
That's right.
then all you think about, and you're only alive for 100 years, so it's just hit the gas. Hit the gas for 100 years, and who gives a shit what happens after I'm gone? I'm going to die with the most toys. Yay, I win in
No,
the dirt.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.